Good morning, everyone. This is Anna Wheaton here, an Australian demonstrator from Nudge Nudge Ink Ink. My video today is to show you how to do the faux tiling technique. This is a technique that we explored in class last week and made a variety of cards, and I'm going to take you through one of them, but the principle is still the same. So this is one of the cards we made, and you can see that the essence of faux tiling is that you create a tiled pattern on your cardstock by using your scoring blade or your scoreboard. This is one that we made using the Pretty Medallion background stamp set, and you can see on that one I've got my tile spacing quite close, and here is another one where the spacing is further apart, so you can see you get a different effect. But I'm going to show you a variation of this one with a little bit of blending brush. So to achieve that, you're going to need your scoring board. A few years ago, we had a diagonal plate that was an option for a scoring board. And it's extremely handy for this technique. You could, of course, do this square on. The other option is to cut a triangle of cardstock that's quite thick, and then you can add your cardstock that you're going to score on an angle like that. But for this purpose, I'm just going to use the diagonal plate, add some light. With your scoreboard, if you are using it, you have a stylus included, and it has a large end and a small end. So on this cardstock, we're using the small end because we want a good groove. The thicker end is for thinner card or paper, such as our DSP. So skinny end, good groove. I'm going to start at the 0 point. All my measurements here are in inches. And I'm going to do a diagonal score, and then I'm just going to skip over to 1.5, and I'll just come in a bit, and if I add 1.5 to that, I get 3, and I want to do the same thing going down here. This particular 1.5 here, I really got to get my head over it so that I score in the right place, and then I'm going to add 1.5 to that. And then the next 1.5 actually takes me off my cardstock. I'm then going to rotate that 90 degrees and do the same thing. So you can see I'm getting a bit of a diamond pattern. Oh. Now, if you have a trimmer, you can do the same thing with your trimmer, just using the scoring blade on your trimmer. So there we go. Put my scoreboard aside, and you can see that that is well grooved, and then the back has the ridges, so it's the groovy side that we want. What you then need is another piece that is scored the same. I'm going to go back out now. Another piece that is scored the same measurements. Now I was getting this one ready, and you can see that I went to the wrong measurement here and also here. But that's fine because I only use part of this. It is handy to have it so that it is scored in the same intervals as the piece that you are working on. And what I'm going to do is cut away a section so that I have a right angled template, like so. When I do my template, I also want it to have a bit of room here. All right, so I wouldn't want to cut this one, for example, because there's not much room here for using my blending brush. Then what I do is I'm going to line that up with one of the squares, like so. All right, so my tip is matching, and so are these lines. Then I'm going to grab my ink. In this case, I'm using mint macaron and a blending brush. And remember, with your blending brush, you want to start on your scrap and then move up. Don't start directly on your cardstock. And I'm just going to work in swirls so that that right angle, the tip of it, is the darkest part, and then up here is getting lighter. So you might just be able to see that. Okay, if I take that away, you can see the effect. Sometimes it doesn't look as though you've inked very much, but when you take away the template, you have. And I just want to work through here and do all of these. So you're just going to do every little tip. Quite therapeutic. Oopsie. Now, when you get over to these side ones, this is where it's handy to have this diagonal line on my mask, because I can line it up with the diagonal mask that's there. Clock's striking 10:30 in the morning. Now you can start to see my pattern emerge here. I also find whenever I do something like this in a class, it's amazing how different they turn out. I always say that sponging and blending are a bit like fingerprints in that they are unique. The same tools, the same ink colors used by two different people will produce a different result. Now, see here, I've gone off my grid. Okay, now I still want to add color to that. So I just pretend I'm working still at the point of that diamond to add my ink, and that way I get that faded look going up the side there. So pretty soon you're going to fill up the whole thing. Now down here you can decide, like if I put my template there, let me see, and do my tip, I am going to get a little bit of green there, and I want to do this one. And I'll do this one. All right, there we have it. I'll then grab my card base. So this is half a piece of A4. Which I'll fold in half. And I don't know where my bone folder is. And then I've got from Artistic Dies, I've cut out this image already. So here it is, and I use the adhesive sheets. So when I put an adhesive sheet on to the back of any cardstock, I always scribble on it. That's not a very obvious scribble for a video, but I just scribble so that I know that that cardstock has that backing. It's particularly handy if I'm doing it with classes and so on, to let people, make it easy for people to identify. Now you can see by peeling that off, I've actually pulled out most of those pieces that were stuck in there. So that's a tip, because we can spend ages poking them out when really that adhesive sheet just pulls them off. The fellow outside just pulled up and he's collecting all the bottles. Nearly there. Okay, and then I'm going to stick that on. I'm actually going to offset it a bit so that I don't have the whole thing on there. That sticks right on. Also to my thumbnail. And then I'll grab my scissors and trim that. Now, this is adding a cutout image. You could also stamp onto this. So you could use the same mint macaron to stamp some flowers or the like. And the stamp won't collect in those grooves. So that's what I've done here, for example. So in these grooves, the stamp doesn't collect. If you've got a really inky pad, you might find that it does. Now, the second thing I'm going to add here is a scallop. So here's a good tip. These are our scallop contour dies. Now, these actually go with a stamp set. So these two will cut out the images of the stamp set. But all of these frames and this scallop are beautiful to use anyway. I've had a customer just buy these dies. So what you can do is, I've taken this large one and I've put it onto the edge of a cardstock piece, and I've just cut it like that to become my border. So what I can do then is, that's the wrong way. What I can do then is put my adhesive on there. I've got to be careful now. This is sticky on the back when I didn't intend it to be. And then I'm going to add this to it. Now I'm just going to line it up so that I know I've got my symmetry happening. So my scallop ends at the same place. Some people don't worry about that too much. Then I'm going to trim that off. Now, when we made this in class, I love how different ladies have different interpretations. And one of the ladies spent a bit of time adding her colour to this and to this. So they were actually, she did hers in navy, and they were overlays that were also in the navy. So that was a clever addition. I'm then going to stick that to my card base, and then add some bling. I think I'll add, I've got quite a few here. Oh, one on the floor. I love these iridescent pearls that are new in the annual catalogue. They've just got that extra shine that the normal pearls don't have. You may find too, see, I've just popped that on and I've noticed a couple there that could be popped out, and that one there. Easy enough with your take your pick tool. And there you have it. You could keep this, although you must remember when you go, I wouldn't use that with a light pink, for example, because you're just going to drag ink from there onto the whatever you're blending on. My other tip is, if you wanted to make a few of these, I've realised that actually I've done that upside down, but that's okay. It's it still works. The other thing to remember is that when you do this scoring, you could, of course, do it on a large piece. score a whole piece of A4 and then chop it up so that you can use it for a few cards. So there you go. There is the example I showed you first. And then I've got a couple of other colours. That soft sea foam, that was petal pink, I think. And then there's a navy one. All right, and you can see the difference between which way you face your tiles. I didn't even notice as I was doing that. Alrighty, thank you. You can find information about how to order the products in the description. If you'd be willing to like my video and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it, and I'd love to bring you some more tips. Thank you. Bye.